My last but certainly not the least speaker is Martin Kramer. Martin Kramer has a longer list of academic achievements than I could shake my stick at, so for the purposes of this conference I will just introduce him as a senior fellow at the Adelson Institute for Strategic Studies. Dr. Kramer, please.
Thank you, Michael. I'd like to open simply by mentioning the name of a personal friend, Hale Isfandiari, a scholar who on May 8th was thrown into Evin prison in Iran on false charges. I'll continue to mention her name on such occasions as this until she enjoys her freedom again. It's an honor to have been asked to speak at this conference, and that's because I've been a democratization skeptic regarding the Middle East from the beginning. I first met Natan Sharansky before I knew that we would become friends and colleagues 2 years ago in a debate about his book. I've been almost too consistent in my views on the subject, so Natan, don't expect a miraculous conversion today. But I don't call myself a critic. I'm a skeptic, waiting for events to change my mind. So I've come here not to persuade, but to be persuaded. And since my area is in the Middle East, I'll remain within its limits. Now, in urging democracy on the Middle East, its advocates generally argue that the spread of democracy will make the Middle East and the world more secure. The theory goes like this. Dictators and authoritarian rulers need an external enemy to justify their grip on power. This makes them unreliable allies and bellicose neighbors. And to preserve their power, they not only threaten their own people, they directly or indirectly threaten us. As long as this region is not free, we'll be insecure. My teacher and mentor, Bernard Lewis, has put it starkly. We free them or they destroy us. Now, there's no doubt that such dictators have arisen in the Middle East. I think Saddam Hussein is the exemplary case. My friend Kanan Makia has described the Ba'ath system in Iraq as a republic of fear. Such regimes are bellicose by design. They can be counted upon to wage war against their peoples and their neighbors. These dictatorships turn their subjects into what Natan has called fear societies. And our obligation in such cases, I believe, should be self-evident. But the Middle East is also home to another kind of authoritarian rule. In this kind of system, the regime doesn't rely only on fear, or even primarily on fear. Such regimes don't require an external enemy or perpetual war. To the contrary, the ruler builds a consensus around the status quo by sharing a bit of power, balancing interests, upholding the law selectively, and averting war. These aren't free societies. You can't stand up in the town square and say what you want without fear of being arrested. But these aren't fear societies, and they aren't republics of fear. Now, in the Middle East, the Saddam-style dictatorship with mass graves and invasions of neighbors is the exception, not the rule. So is Taliban-style Puritanism based on terrorism at home and abroad. So is a genocidal regime in Sudan and the fanatic clerics in Iran. Democracy competes not against them, but against this consensual authoritarianism. And the reason democracy is losing that competition is that consensual authoritarianism produces security for its peoples, and it exports security to its neighbors and to some extent to the world. We mustn't be blind to these facts. These regimes cooperate with the world in combating terrorism and containing an aggressive Iran. They have peace treaties with Israel or float peace initiatives. They don't threaten or intervene in the internal affairs of other countries. And they don't seek weapons of mass destruction. None of them has gone to war in the last 30-plus years. And who are the net exporters of insecurity? These are the states that have multipolar or pluralistic systems: Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, Lebanon, and what some call Palestine. These systems aren't democracies. But in terms of formal practices like elections, they've actually gone the longer way. Yet they don't provide security for their peoples, and they export insecurity in the form of terrorism, refugees, radical Islam, and nuclear threats. And what's discouraging is that this isn't true in only some of the cases, or in only half of the cases. It's true for now in all of them. And if the good news is Mauritania, then I think it's small consolation. And that was also my teacher, Bernard Lewis, who said this, and I quote him: "Democracy is a strong medicine, which you have to give to the patient in small, gradually increasing doses. If you give too much too quickly, you kill the patient." End of quote from Professor Lewis. This doesn't contradict his earlier statement so much as it complements it. If they're not made free, they'll destroy us. But if they're made free too quickly, they might destroy themselves and take us with them. So how do we know whether democracy dosage is too much too fast? Well, security is the test. People around the world will look to this conference and say, solve this conundrum. Don't just cite precedents from other places and times. This is the Middle East. It looks different. Don't just offer lofty rhetoric. People have grown skeptical of it. Don't say that America will provide the security, because it won't. And don't say that we have to think long term. Too much can go wrong in the short term. The pro-democracy forces need to show how they'll make their peoples not only freer, but more secure, and how they'll make the rest of us safer. Now, unlike some others, I don't think this is an impossible mission, but it has to be acknowledged as the primary mission of dissidents today. It is a fact of life that the world's support for freedom isn't unconditional, even for this U.S. administration. And security is the condition. Meet that condition even partway, and good people in the world won't just admire your courage, they might even take a chance and support you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin, and thank you for remembering Bernard Lewis. We would all wish that he could be here with us. And also for coining the term consensual authoritarianism.